Alright. So we're back. I guess I can show you sculpting a little, or remesh a little bit on this thing, actually. Oh, it looks like it just fixed itself when I applied that. Weird. That's very strange. Either way, I can show you what remesh does. There's a modifier that's called remesh that does the exact same thing that remeshing and sculpting would actually do. And the lower the number, the more voxels you have to capture the shape, basically. And this is what I mean. Like, technically, like, when you're sculpting, you are messing with each of these little vertices, so you actually need quite a lot of polygons when you're sculpting. People that think this is a lot, this is nothing. ZBrush tends to handle polygons much better, but it doesn't treat them like normal polygons. But if you want high poly things, and to sculpt on them eventually, this is what you'll probably need to do eventually. Because basically you're going to bake them down to a low poly. And I'll actually show you baking in this episode. This kind of like little tutorial. I'll show you how to bake and the process of that. And I'll actually sculpt on here. So like, let's apply that. Now it's all these polygons. I tend to actually turn on statistics under the viewport overlays. So you can see how many polygons. This is 1 million. That's fine. With remeshing, you want to be very careful because it does have the capability of crashing your, well, not necessarily crashing your PC, but stalling it. So you might have to crash it, which can be, it's not fun. It's not something you would ideally want. I'm actually going to go down to the mesh filter. I don't know any of the hotkeys for the brushes, which is annoying. That's a me issue. I learned too much ZBrush to like really remember these hotkeys. But essentially, I'm smoothing the entire model so I can get rid of those edges. I don't think I'm doing a great job. I can also use the smooth brush, which will also let me do it. I turned on symmetry in the top right corner here, so I can basically edit both sides at the same time. And this object can actually just be sculpted on. Like, if I wanted to dig into it, I can actually just start digging into it and doing stuff. Which leads me to my other video. I'm gonna show you how to sculpt and cut out pieces and use booleans and stuff and all this other cool stuff. We're gonna delete that object now. We're gonna start with a icosphere, which is what I tend to like using. I'll actually show you with a cube first, though. So you can't actually sculpt on this cube for a number of reasons. I'll turn on the wireframe. There's no polygons to play with. The only polygons you have are these corners. So anything you sculpt on, you're just sculpting on the corners. If you hold R, you can actually remesh the model. There's actually 3 ways in Blender to remesh that I know of. There is the normal remesh, which is right here, which will turn it into voxels. There is the Dinotopo remesh, which will actually turn it into triangles, which is very bizarre. But if you hit R, you can use all these remesh hotkeys. So this one actually creates triangles. So when I hit R and then remesh it, is it not working? Usually it would work. Maybe I need to change the brush to constant detail. Yeah. And then I can like change it. The cool thing about Dino Topo mode is you can actually color pick the amount of detail on an object already. And if you use the masking tools, you can actually mask out different areas of detail. And it doesn't merge the edges either. So this can be a very useful tool in sculpting that I will go over a little bit in a later part. But just know that this is a tool at your disposal, and it's not quite wanting to work. Why is it? There we go. See, I have more detail in one corner than the other side because I masked out the area. Um, but basically, the reason you want to remesh is so you have enough polygons to start playing with, so you can sculpt whatever you want. And I generally do not sculpt in Dino mode. There are ways to make it optimal. I just don't like it because you're basically creating geometry every single second you're sculpting on it. So I'm going to start with an icosphere. I tend to turn it up to like 5 or 6 subdivisions. And what this will allow me to do is basically start with a sphere. So there is an add-on I do recommend if you have a drawing tablet, and that is called Mouse-Look Navigation. It is completely free, and you have to go to their Gumroad to download it, but you can type in $0 and you can get access to Mouse-Look Navigation, or you can support them if you want. I think it's more of a quality of life tool because having this on allows you to basically use the hotkeys like ZBrush already and to rotate around your sculpture without basically clicking an extra button on your tablet pen. Like you can just click off your model and then rotate instantly. Um, I'm gonna show you how to do that exactly because a lot of people that install it, when I showed them it, there's an issue. You have to actually go to the app, the add-on, and then you have to load the preset ZBrush. And this is found under key maps. It's usually set on settings. You got to click over to key maps, go to load presets, and then load the ZBrush preset. And it'll basically set up all your keys for that. And this button in the corner is how you toggle it on and off. Um, so basics, I'm not going to teach you anatomy through this. That's not the point of this. This is all the tool set. Anatomy is a separate art skill, which isn't even art related, I don't feel. I feel like a lot of it's very technical. But I will teach you how to get started. So like, I generally would sculpt like eyes and stuff like that. I'm not gonna teach you how to do that. I'm just gonna do it really quickly. And I might need lower polygon count. Oh wait, no, it's not. It's the smooth brush. But yeah. So I'm gonna create a little face really quickly, and then I'm gonna show you how to use the Boolean tools. For lips and stuff, I tend to use Draw Sharp. I'll give this in ZBrush terms. Clay strips is like clay buildup. Draw Sharp is like damn standard. So if you need to draw edges and stuff into your model, it's essentially like damn standard in ZBrush. I'm only saying these equivalents so that people from ZBrush will know what I'm talking about. So if they ever wanted to switch over to Blender, they can. It's super useful to me to be able to do that, actually, because I know all the kind of workflows in ZBrush vaguely. So switching over is not... It's not a huge deal, actually, to be able to do that. So yeah, that's kind of neat. And if I wanted to do overlap of the lips, because these aren't real lips, these are like modeled in. Generally, you wouldn't want to sculpt them, but you can. I would basically like select the mask, and then other tools you can hit front faces. This will only select the front faces. So if I were to select now, it'll select the back. Turn on front faces, only selects the front. So it's very worth knowing that as a tool. I'm gonna select the mouth, and then I'm gonna just open it, and I'll hit Control I. I have a hotkey for this setup under Sculpt and Set Pivot. I set my hotkey to Shift P usually, I think, and it's select under surface or something like that. Where is it? I thought this is it. But basically I have it to Shift Control P, my mistake. And what this allows me to do is put my pivot position anywhere I feel like. It's very useful for these bottom tools right here, which are your move, rotate, and scale options. I'm doing it so I can basically move the mouth and open it into a open position. And then the reason remesh is so important, I can actually just remesh this mouth. And then it's already merged in. It's already properly got the correct amount of polygons. This is how you'd actually use horns and stuff. And also why I don't recommend multi-res unless you have finished geometry, like a finished silhouette geometry, like how your model will look generally. Because if you're... actually, I'm going to show it. If you're essentially using multi-res, what you'll end up getting is a model that you can't really add detail to unless it already has those areas built out. There's no point in trying to use multi-res to preserve the shape. It's just lazy. It can be good. In fact, you can get higher poly models really quickly. But the issue is when you start pulling shapes out and thinking you can still sculpt on them. That's not what it does. You're actually stretching the model, and in order to get more geometry, you'd have to keep subdividing, and you're just adding more polygons into an area that doesn't require them. So like no matter what you do, this area will just continue to be stretched. So like if you try to add like little crevice details to it, like it's not gonna work. Versus like remeshing it, and I'll just apply it to prove my point. If I just remesh this and then go into sculpt mode, you see the stretching, right? But if I hit this, I remeshed it. Now it's like got even geometry in that area that you can continue to sculpt detail onto. So that's why getting your final model, like the final proportions of your model before you remesh it or before you multi-res anything, is super important to me. Because essentially you're using a predefined shape, then it'll already have the correct geometry to be subdivided. It doesn't matter as much. But if you're just using multi-res without the knowledge, like it's going to create issues. And why I opened the mouth is, well, there's a number of reasons. You can actually have overlap in your sculptures, and I'll show you how to do it. I'll just inflate the lips. Uh, actually, no, I'll move them up and then inflate them. Actually, I'll show you through the masking thing I was going to show you already. So there is something like in ZBrush called polygroups. Blender has its own called face sets. And basically you can set a face set from the masked part, and then you can hit H and hide them. So it allows you to sculpt certain areas that you might want to get to. And I believe that the whole object still shows up in rendered mode? No, it doesn't. But it's super useful if you want to pull down parts of an object and have them overlap or something. Or like say get an arm out of the way if you're sculpting on a chest that's really close to it. All that is super useful and handy in a workflow when you're messing with the thing. I tend to use Snakehook to move things around. I act in Snakehook to liquefy in an art program because it basically bends the shape, whereas grab will try to retain the actual shape that you had. And Alt H is the hotkey to make the face sets appear. H is to hide. It's the same in edit mode as well. If you ever need to hide something, hit H. Alt H will unhide everything. But what I'm doing essentially is I am trying to make the lips closed. And if you get annoyed by seeing faces, you can actually lower the opacity, you can turn it off, you can do all kinds of things. Now I'm going to use Dynatopo to show the other feature that is available with this. Dynatopo will delete face sets, but how it's useful is you can essentially grab any piece that you want, and you can just remesh it, and it won't merge the faces. That's the more important part about Dynamesh, is it won't merge the faces together. So when I go here and then I like try to remesh it, it'll keep these lips separated, and it'll have more geometry on it. And the reason this is important is if you make another face set, which you can just grab the bottom and top lip, and how you do that is with Shift A. And what this will allow you to do is only grab the geometry that exists, and you can change the settings up here under auto masking. I tend to do topology and I think mesh boundary. I can't remember, but essentially what this will do is when I mask out the face set again, it'll only mask the top lips, and you can still keep sculpting just on the top lips. So like, let's say you want to add detail in the lip area without touching the bottom lips, you can do that rather easily. And if you want to like go into the mouth and stuff, you can do all this kind of wacky detailing. So it's a very useful tool in your tool set to have in your back corner. Especially if you want to detail out certain sections of your model without worrying about the other sections that are overlapping. I think the next thing I'll show is how to use booleans in this workflow. So like what booleans are used for. I'm going to show it right now. I'm going to actually grab a shape, go in edit mode, extrude it, turn it into a weirder shape. And the idea will be to essentially cut this into the top of his head and have a sectioned out piece. And this is what bool tool will actually come in handy for, is you can do that really quickly. So I'll grab both shapes, I'll go into edit mode, and then I'll do slice, and slice will actually create two pieces that you can then remesh, and now he's got like a panel on the top of his head that's like removable. The issue is you'll have to remesh the object again, so I'm not going to do that with the bottom part because it's got lips. I'd have to do that in Dynatopo mode, and then remesh the whole thing. When it comes to here, I'm going to remesh it, and then the reason you want to do that is because I'll undo that really quick and show you. It'll actually have a face set built in, and this will be flat planes, or the simplest way the Boolean was cutting. So that's why you'd want to essentially cut it really quickly and then remesh it. That way you have full geometry to play with when you're sculpting or just smoothing out areas. Because you can actually grab this and then start sculpting directly on it, or smoothing out the like inseam area where it like connects. I'm going to use the mesh filter objects. The filters are really neat. I might not use the filter. Well, I usually smooth out the whole object, and you can use this with masks as well. So like, let's say you just wanted to mask out this top part right here where his head is. You can do that. And you can basically just like only smooth out that entire area of the head. And I'll just try to smooth out the edges on that. And you can get much higher poly sculpts than what I'm doing right here. I'm just showing you a little demo. I also tend to like working pretty low res at first, just to get all my base forms down, then start detailing. That's a personal thing. But yeah, and this isn't showing you about materials or anything else yet. I'll do that in the next video with this model. I'll actually build it out a little bit more.